Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to Furry Migration Online. I hope you're all having a great con so far. Happy New Year's. I guess to kind of start, we're going to talk about VRChat a little bit. So going from this end of the table, just do some introductions.
I'm Artemis or Artemis Dragmire. I also stream on Twitch. You may have seen me there, but otherwise, yeah, I just hang out in VRChat from time to time.
I'm Rico, part of Minnesota Furs, also Furry Migration.
And I am Fulner, or my online avatar is fox.gif or GIF, however you want to pronounce it. Former convention chair for BronyCon, and excited to be here.
Rex Kitsune. I somehow got dragged into this.
I'm Yiffy Griffey on Twitter and in the internet, and I'm also just here because I'm here.
The purpose of this panel really is to kind of talk to people that don't know what VRChat is and what it's about, and kind of how to get into it. So I want to actually clear up one misconception that you need VR to play VRChat, which is not the case. Rex, just recently, you actually were playing in the desktop environment, and then you just got VR, right?
Yep, I started out using the desktop client.
Gotcha. And what headset did you go to from the desktop client?
Well, I went from the desktop client to an Oculus Rift. So, Facebook owns me now.
I'm pretty sure everyone here actually is on VR right now, right?
I think so,
I
yeah.
believe so.
Yep.
Cool. So like Rex was doing before, you don't need VR to enjoy VR chat, but of course having VR definitely adds to the experience.
Yeah, VR is... Oh, go ahead.
No,
I thought you had to open.
No,
I'm
I
sorry.
wasn't. Go for it.
I was just going to say VR is completely optional for VR chat. It's you can still get a custom avatar. You can still find cool generic furry avatars around the worlds and stuff. And all that can be done without needing to log into VR. You can just download the client and it's actually totally free. And yeah, you just you just have to find stuff that meets your whatever you want to use the program for. But yeah, you don't need to pay anything, and VR adds to it a lot because you can move your hands around and do all sorts of crazy emoting, and people will be doing that to you, but you can still, have a lot of fun just in a desktop client and being able to watch everybody, doing their shenanigans and stuff. It can be quite fun.
You actually bring up an interesting segue in regards to like new users coming into VR chat. Like, I want to kind of bring up like one of my first aversions to VR, not even just VR, just VR chat in general, is just interacting with other people. Can be very anxious at times. And that was kind of one of my big hesitancies, was just going into it alone and doing a couple of public servers like with just one other, just taking that adventure dive actually wasn't like going to it in person kind of a thing. There was like a little bit of a disconnect to where it felt safer, if that makes any sense. So it kind of can be a little scary at first, but it kind of isn't once you like meet up with a couple of friends or just meet some interesting furries. It's almost like a convention when you're just hanging out like in a den or whatnot by yourself, and like someone joins the table, you guys start talking about mutual interests, and before you know it, boom, you guys are friends.
Yeah, I want to actually, Yiffy, I want to kind of get your perspective on it. In a time when you can't really go out and go to conventions since everything's kind of canceled, have you found VR chat to be kind of a nice like supplementary thing for you?
Yeah, I was actually going to say after Fulner, just the last couple of weekends that I've been doing this, I'll hop into a random world with a bunch of other furries just through some mutual connections I've made through in VR chat, and you end up in a world with 40 or 50 different furries, and it feels a lot being like at a room party or even a small convention space, and it kind of, we can't do that right now, but it kind of gives you that same vibe. And I've kind of dived headfirst into this stuff because I went from not really being into this whole VR stuff like a month ago to now I've got the full headset, the full body tracking, a whole fancy new computer to run it all, just because it's been such an engaging and invigorating experience.
And
You
the
started on
cheaper at home.
Yes.
You started
much
on
cheaper.
desktop too, didn't you, Yigs?
Yes, I played desktop exactly once. We played for like 6 hours that night, and then
Oh,
I was
God.
like, "Yep, I have to go buy VR and be done with it," because The desktop experience is good, but the VR experience is something else. And then the VR experience with full body tracking is another thing entirely.
Yiffy, would you
Yeah,
say
it is a money pit.
Would
No,
you
go
s-
ahead.
Yes, it is absolutely a money pit.
would you say someone that wants to get into VR chat, do you think it's a good idea to try desktop first or jump right into VR or maybe go to a friend's house that has it? What's a good starting point?
If you have a friend that you can borrow their VR setup with, it definitely would be a good thing, because VR can be off-putting if you've never done it before. It is a fairly sizable investment, so you need to make sure it's something you're really into before you're going to spend the money on it. But as far as VRChat specifically goes, the social aspect of it's still there, even in desktop mode. You can still run around in different worlds, like Fulner was saying. You can still talk with people. You get to see the cool avatars that they have. And you can even still use, a lot of avatars will have built-in emotes and different gestures that you can still activate even when you're in desktop mode. But it's definitely a much more engaging experience in VR.
So speaking
Desktop
to
mode is a lot like Second Life. You can still
Yeah.
do pretty much everything you want, just in first person.
You're gonna say something,
and
Art?
speaking, were you wanting this to be more of a general VR panel or just VR chat? Because I was going to talk about VR, something that Giggs brought up, but I don't remember what your goal was for this.
So yeah, actually, the objective of this panel is to kind of for people that want to get more social and have an alternative to conventions in the time being, at least until things can resume again, is primarily VR chat. But if there's an aspect of VR that you think kind of ties in well with the whole VR chat thing.
I was just going to talk about Giggs touched on just the whole subject of what it takes to get into VR. So if that is your ultimate goal and something you want to look into for VR chat or for any purpose, Giggs mentioned it and it's a good point. The thing I highly recommend is trying it first. There are a few things about VR that can still be barriers to entry to some people. Some people still do experience heavy motion sickness, although there is a lot of alleviation for that now in most software. So definitely don't let that turn you off if you do get motion sick. I myself do in cars really bad, and it's not in VR. I've gotten completely used to it. So, but that's why I say try it before you go out and spend a ton of money and then realize that it isn't for you, or it doesn't agree with you, or maybe you just don't enjoy it the way you thought you did. So it's something to try, but I think most people out there would really, really enjoy it, and you're gonna be blown away by how far this tech has come. If the last time you tried something like this was like those old phone VR things, it's totally different than that now. It's way different, guys.
So kind of to piggyback in regards to the barriers to entry for VR as a whole, Giggs, you started out when after the desktop mode, you went with the OG Vive. That kind of basically was one of the first headsets. The quality, a lot of folks are just like, Index is the greatest, or Vive Pro, and things of that nature. How was your experience using the OG Vive for the few weeks that you were just kind of testing it out with some of your friends' hardware?
Yeah, I borrowed Fulner's old Vive to start out with for exactly 2 weeks. And it's not as high resolution as the second generation, or I guess technically third generation headsets, but it was still the same experience. And you get over the lack of resolution really quickly. It's not it's so awful I can't be immersed in it or anything. You still have a great time with it. The biggest thing that I noticed going to a Vive Pro, though, honestly, was just physical comfort. This headset is just much more comfortable to wear when you're doing. I do VR sessions for 5 to 8 hours at a time, and the original Vive, I would start to get some cramps on my face, and the way the straps were not super comfortable. With the Vive Pro is much more comfortable, and I've heard that the Index is as well. But yeah, you shouldn't feel bad about getting a lower end or a previous generation headset if that's the best you can do, because it's still the same experience. You still get to see the way it's meant to be seen. It's still immersive. It's just not quite as high resolution, which you won't care until you're trying to read some very small text very far away or something.
Yeah, in summary, it seems from desktop mode to a Gen 1 headset to the HQ headsets, it kind of seems like we agree upon that the experience really isn't hampered aside from like a few quality of life things, which
Yeah.
it's really good to know that the desktop experience, even if you don't have VR or a top tier computer that can run it, you still can be a part of set experiences. Sure, you maybe won't have like the gesticulation of your hands and feet and whatnot with tracking and things like that, but it's that extra layer of being able to see other people's emotes, movements, and things of that nature that kind of bring the immersion to hanging out with your friends in VRChat, VR, whatever that may be, to almost the next level, because we're a very social species and like to read body language and social cues. Because I don't know about you, but Zoom fatigue sucks, even though you have a webcam and you can like see a face of a person, but it's not really like a full experience, if that makes any sense.
Sure.
Yeah, for sure.
To get into the kind of the next subject for people that want to get into VR chat, of course you can hop in and you can find pre-made avatars and everything, and that's not your own. But kind of getting into the next stage of VR chat, I wanted to talk about the two different types of VR chat avatars you can get. Either a retexture, which is something that I'm doing, or a full-blown custom avatar like Fulner, Clay, and Artemis have. Can we maybe first start off talking about the process of how do you start on finding someone to do a retexture and what is involved in that?
So, for me, at least starting out with this avatar, this actually is a base avatar model by Ghost Cabot. It's a fluffer model. I went ahead and kind of, with no Unity experience, Blender, anything of that nature, I just kind of started watching some YouTube tutorials, reading some articles and whatnot. I kind of have an IT background already, so it's going to sound like I just was like, snap, easy peasy, but it took kind of like trial and error, just kind of learning, and honestly, it was a great project to kind of learn during the year that is 2020. It definitely took a lot of my time and focus, but it was a really great experience to learn how to join meshes to kind of, for me, I had to add the shirt manually, which, Lord, that was a pain. Learning to add like custom emotes and whatnot was really cool. And if you're into learning new things and getting passionate about something, I definitely recommend. There's a lot of great tutorials out there to kind of just dive into it. And you can just start with something basic, like buying a base model from an artist off of Gumroad and adding a hat or just adding something simple, and then learning it in phases, which I highly recommend. So at least from starting from a base and kind of customizing, that was my route. But I've seen a lot of discords where you can find folks to kind of say, hey, I'm retexturing this for X amount of dollars, and they like showcase their works, which is really cool, because it's almost a paradigm shift of like a new God, I can't think of the phrase, but like a art medium, so to speak.
A way that I like to compare it to, like, yeah, the way I like to compare it to in the art world of like getting art commissioned, it's like the YCH of models. You have the base of a fox, a dog, a tiger, and then basically they just do a recolor for you. Or if you feel like you might have the skills to do it yourself, did you say that you, Fulner, did the retexture yourself?
I did. So I use Substance Painter. So the artist who put this model on Gumroad, they included, usually a lot of them will include their Substance Painter for easy recoloring and painting. They'll throw in usually the Blender model as well if you want to make base modifications to it and add certain things, or make new blend shapes to kind of do facial expressions. Most of them include kind of how to get started at a base level, and most artists as well too have discords for their models, where you can actually have like a sub community of folks who have an avatar base, and they'll share assets that they added. So like for example, there's a pretty popular otter one that we all know where they have custom whips and DLCs coming out, which are really fantastic. There's a lot of resources out there.
We have an otter right here, actually, now.
I mean, usually if you go into a world where, like, these avatars are featured, like, the creator will have a world with a couple of defaults, and they've usually got, like, their Discord or their tag or something like that in there so you can find them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another thing that a lot of people that go to conventions might be familiar with, that you could compare the whole avatar base model to, is similar to finding a fursuit maker and liking their style enough to maybe commission someone or the maker itself. Some of the makers take commissions for it too, to just do a retexture of it. The benefit of this is it's a lot cheaper than a fursuit. Now, but a fully custom model is going to be a lot more expensive. Those do run a lot more depending on what you're hunting for.
Yeah, that's actually my next segue. Is I just wanted to, like, of course, everyone's different with prices. With a retexture, you're looking at anywhere between maybe like $20 to $40 for the model, depending on complexity, and then the artist to do the retexture. So you could probably be looking at maybe anywhere between 100 and 200 at tops. But that was a nice actually segue for a completely custom model. If you don't like any of the pre-mades and you want something entirely unique to yourself, like for me, I'm using a Milo avatar for the Raccoon, and there's a dime a dozen of those out there. But if you wanted to do something completely your own and you're unique, who wants to talk about the process behind getting an entire model remade or made up? I guess Art, you might have the best experience.
Yeah, I mean, I've done it.
One.
Yeah, Clay's done it too. Me and Art are. Yeah, I think me and Clay are the main ones that have gotten custom ones, I think. But I got mine just like a year and a half ago. I basically found I had some links that I found to like lists of artists that were taking commissions. But there's plenty of those out there of like 3D model artists, and you can all find them on Twitter and stuff too. And I just approached one whose style I liked and asked them if they were open. They happened to be opening in like a week or something. I was like, hey, can you put me on a waiting list or whatever? And it's just like commissioning an artist otherwise. This model ran me about, I'm trying to remember, 450, I think, or so. It was maybe less than that. The problem was there was an exchange rate involved because the artist for this one is in Australia or New Zealand or something. So there was a currency exchange involved, and I don't remember what the total came out to be, but somewhere in that range of about $1,000 at the top end of it. It might not have been. I don't think it was that much. I think it was more like 400. But yeah, that's what you're looking at for something like this, and this is pretty basic. And there's some things I need to add to it that are in the model file that weren't set up when I got it. So there's things like that you have to consider when you commission an artist. But different artists will do different things for you. Other ones will expect you to set some stuff up. So that's just something you need to communicate with them.
I mean, it's also thing that I've heard that's kind of like I've heard it's kind of like the fursuit scene where the big makers can often have large queues, be very hard to get into their queue. You can it can be beneficial if you're looking around, ask around, see if you can find anyone who's maybe like not quite as known or isn't quite in the public eye yet. It might be easier to get a model from something like that.
Yeah, Rico mentioned
if you really like a certain style. I mean, they will come open eventually. So
Rico mentioned Milo. Milo just recently, a couple of days ago, I think, was auctioning off 2 custom VRChat slots, and when I looked at them in the 11th hour of the auction, they were both over $2,500. So they're definitely getting expensive.
And I just actually,
it's so good for
very talented artist, absolutely worth it.
Yes.
You either the way some of them work. I think Milo and Blanca are both working very similar. So they're both very popular artists, and how they'll do is you'll apply, and you either can get chosen by they'll just randomly pick those who apply, or you can do like auctions, and auctions are like YCHs where they can kind of get pretty expensive depending on how like competitive the bidding is for them.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, you always got to keep auction fever as a factor in those kinds of things. People tend to lose their impulse control under such circumstances.
And I moved because I think my mic is anchored off of me, so I want to make sure everyone can be heard. But yeah, that's on. Is there any other methods that maybe I'm missing? Now, Rex, I know that you haven't bought anything, but you're perfectly content with finding free ones that are just open for cloning. Do you want to talk about maybe like your process or anything?
Well, I don't really have much of a process. I find something I like, and hopefully I can make a copy of it. Eventually, I will probably purchase 1 or 2 and either try to find someone to figure out how to remove this promotional armband, or try to figure it out myself. But there are lots of resources. You can pretty much just Google the name of whatever creature you want, and you'll find links to worlds that have them. Pretty much how I found most of my protogens.
at this point in the game, like there have been a lot of creators that have gone out there, and a lot of them have made more public style things where you might have to pay something between like $20 to $60 to get the model, but it's cheaper than a complete custom one, and usually they're still quite high quality. There are some that are completely free, like the Raccoon, and I don't know if the Protogen's free or not, but that Protogen's also, I mean, you got a lot of good like bases out there that aren't expensive or completely free, and a lot of them you can like customize to an incredible degree that makes it to where you can kind of make them anything you want.
Something else I actually wanted to get into the topic of is full body tracking. Full body tracking in VR is probably not something that many games support, but it's definitely something that VRChat supports. I guess I don't know how to kind of get into the topic of full body, but does anyone want to like? There's different levels. Yeah, there's different levels of full body.
God, my body.
Yes.
There's different levels of full body
That's
tracking.
usually what happens.
Depending on what headset you have, will depend on kind of what options you have for full body. I think a majority of you guys here, and you guys can demo your full body if you want a little bit more, are using the trackers for the index, correct?
Yeah.
So,
I would demo
Art, I'll
mine,
let you
but
go first.
No, I can't demo mine because all my stuff just died. So I'm
Gotcha.
stuck in whatever pose I'm in now.
Oh no. Looks like a comfy pose at least. So yeah,
it's
like
good
you were
enough.
saying, Rico, there's a couple of levels to the full body tracking. You don't have to start with the full, I believe they call it 6-point, where, hold on, let me get out of my chair here. Sound like an old man.
Six.
So with 6-point, you obviously with a regular, I think it's inside out or outside in tracking with how the valve index is. My hands are 2 points, and as well as the head, so that your typical like no full body tracking is going to be known as 3-point. If you throw on like a waist tracker, where if I give it a jiggle, you'll watch the character do some interesting things, that becomes 4-point tracking. And then obviously if you buy 2 more, you can kind of add in and get your full 6-point to kind of get the full immersion if you want to do some dancing or some dabbing, if you're feeling Fortnite-y, I guess. I don't know what the hip kids do nowadays. But yeah, I started out originally with no full body tracking, just headset, hands. It was really great, just like full immersion kind of a thing. But watching other people being able to kind of just do this, or like, honestly, just going over to my chair here and sitting down and then turning around, just is a whole new world in terms of VR interaction, which to do that, it's about $300 to purchase the 3 Vive trackers outright. You can look at the used market if you're interested in that, but it is the next level, but not required to have a good time.
Yeah, I've actually gone through basically all the different stages of full body, like and all the different configurations. I've used a Kinect, I've used the tracking, I've been on a lighthouse system, which is what the index is, and I've been on a non-lighthouse system when I had the original Oculus. And typically how it is you've got outside-in tracking, which is when you have external sensors. The majority of outside-in tracking these days is lighthouse-based. So the Vive Pro, the Vive Cosmos Elite, which has outside tracking, and the Index all use lighthouses. Those are all compatible with the tracking pucks, which are the expensive option. And then the inside-out tracking, which would be like the Oculus, all the modern Oculus headsets, and the old Windows mixed reality headsets and the new Reverb 2. Those are all inside out, and those you usually either you could buy lighthouses to connect with them, and that would be even more expensive, or you can use an Xbox 360 or Xbox One Kinect to set up and get you have to face the Kinect, but you get some tracking that way.
Yeah, and that's
Which, Rico, I think you're using the Kinect tracking.
Yeah, I am. Of course, I was sitting in. Of course, when I stand up, it's a little bit wonky. But yeah, since my primary headset now is the Oculus Quest, just because I'm addicted to inside-out tracking, meaning I don't need lighthouses or anything. It's all based off of cameras off the front of the headset. But I have a Kinect that I have to face this direction, but I can move my feet around. I mean, the accuracy is not as great as like the pucks with the Vive, but at least I'm not cornered without having any options for doing full body just because I'm using an Oculus Quest.
Yeah,
So there are
I usually
options.
Connect and yeah, I think you can actually, if you have an Xbox One Connect, so usually in terms of like price, it's like you've got the 360 Connect, you could probably get a setup for that for maybe like $50 to $100, just because it's an older device, so it's not usually running you as much. The Xbox One Connect is a little bit more difficult because the adapter that lets you plug it into your computer is hard to find. So it can be a little hard to source the components you need to get that plugged in. But the Xbox One Connect, you can actually just using free software and stuff, get it set up to the point where it's almost as, if not as good as the 6-point Vive tracking system with the pucks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's something else to keep in mind is like Clay just said, if you do decide to do the Xbox One Connect, which is what I'm doing, you do need it's called a dev power cable because the USB cable is not enough to provide power. So that's just something you want to factor in if you're budgeting for VR. So that's on that front. Am I missing anything when it comes to VR chat? Maybe things that you guys didn't know about that you wish you had known from day one?
So, kind of circling back to one of the first topics in terms of safety, which was one of my hesitancies getting into VR chat was, oh God, what happens when there's like so many people, like, and it's a little too overwhelming at times. VR chat's kind of gotten a lot of levels of safety where, it can kind of protect a lot of your initial entry, and you can customize it to say, hey, my friends show me a lot of the features and whatnot. You can limit down to, folks that have very poor avatars for better quality assurance. But I really want to give a shout out to the security and the shield things for VR chat, because it's really helped kind of relax my anxiety for going into public worlds, because I can choose to mute individual folks if it's a little too much for me. Sure, it can kind of feel a little bit like a faux pas, but for VR and VR chat in general, it's about what's comfortable for you. And sure, it can be a little bit, I guess, of a taboo in some way, but if I'm having a good time, I want to make sure I keep having a good time. And the security settings let you get very granular in what you want to do and kind of have your base level protections.
Yeah, actually, we reached out to Furality to in part of making our online world for furry migration, and we got permission to show their safety video that they had done. They did a safety video explaining like what you just said, setting up custom rules and everything. So if that works out, we probably have already played it by this point during the convention. But yeah, that's a really good thing to pay note to is setting up the custom safety settings if you're really worried about someone coming in and ruining your good time with crazy shaders that might crash your computer, or someone that you don't know that you don't have as a friend that would come in and start shouting distasteful things over the mic. Looking into those custom safety settings is definitely worth doing. And on the topic of things that people wish they had known from day one in VR chat, does anyone else have anything else they want to add?
Yeah, there is a little something. I know a lot of people who have like waited to get into VR chat until they've gotten like a model retexture or they've gotten a custom model or something, and they get in and they find out that they can't actually use that model yet because when you first join in, there's actually a trust rank for users. So you actually need to play a little bit to get that trust rank up to, I think, user or new user, one of the two. And then,
New user.
Yeah, and then at that point you can start uploading content. So it doesn't take too long to get there. Like if you get on and you friend a few people and like spend a few hours in, it has to do with like the amount of people you friend, the amount of time you play, and the amount of times like people block you and stuff like that. That all factors into your trust rank. So if you just get on and make a few friends and hang out for a little bit, it shouldn't take you too long, but you might not immediately be able to upload your own content.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point, because that was one of my first initial frustrations. I thought I could just make my account and upload a custom avatar, but I actually had to play for a couple of hours with folks to kind of build that trust rank.
Yeah, and
You can buy VRChat Plus.
yeah, or you can get VR Chat
That
Plus.
was after. I worked hard for this.
Well, I'm just saying though, when you buy VRChat Plus, it does bump you to new user automatically. So.
Something
I
else.
think it is one level, because
No, go ahead. I was going to segue into something else, but go on with that.
oh yeah, so before I purchased VRChat Plus to kind of just support the developers and what they're doing and whatnot, I was a new user, and it looks like it basically bumped me up a level up to user after doing that. So it's possible that, just starting out, I would recommend, play free for the first few hours. Make sure you get kind of your free money's worth out of enjoying VRChat before, you jump and donate. But yeah, it only takes a few hours in terms of the interaction with folks and whatnot to kind of get going.
Yeah, and I wanted to add Go ahead, Rex.
I was going to say, for those that are using VRChat through Steam, you don't even have to create a VRChat account, but it is required to create a VRChat account before you can get out of that visitor status.
Yeah, you kind of want
that's
to
a
do
good
the
point,
account
too.
merge and basically upgrade your account and link it. And once you do that, you can log in with the VRChat account or with Steam, or I believe, is there an Oculus connection with VRChat? Or is it a manual login?
No, it just uses the VRChat login.
Okay. Well, that's good, because with having it integrated, it's really nice to have that streamlined, because you can just basically pop the headset on, your lighthouses turn on, and boom.
Yeah, and
New world.
I know not everyone watching right now is based in Minnesota. Like, I don't think anyone here actually is in Minnesota. But Minnesota Fur's Discord has several different people in there that do VRChat. So if you're looking to get started in VRChat and you're kind of intimidated by not knowing anyone, just hop in the Discord and go to the gaming channel and see who would be willing to kind of hop in and show you the ropes. I know that Minnesota Furs, as a board member, I want to start promoting new user nights for VRChat. So we'll probably start getting those up on the website. But before we wrap up this panel, is there anything else anyone wants to mention about VR or VRChat or anything?
Well, there is one thing that could be problematic if someone's on a laptop and looking at getting VR. There are a lot of laptops that have very limited video outputs. For like a lot of the modern headsets, like the new Rifts, Oculus Rift S and Quest, and then the Index, and I think the Reverb too as well. Most of them require a DisplayPort output, or something that you can effectively convert to a DisplayPort, like a mini DisplayPort. So if your laptop has an HDMI port but no DisplayPort, you might have to limit your headset search to things that can support HDMI, because a lot of them, the resolution is so high and the refresh rate is so high that the standard just doesn't work as well on HDMI, and they have to use the DisplayPort.
Yeah,
And
you need the bandwidth of DisplayPort.
Yeah, and actually, you bring up a really good point. For those that want to pick up an Oculus Quest 1 or Quest 2 and want to get VRChat on the natively on the Quest, just keep in mind that its processing power is quite limited, and the avatars in VRChat need to support the Quest, which I actually don't think.
Do any of these here do?
I don't think.
No, but you can plug your Quest in. I think that just plugs in over a normal USB 3 port, right? So it doesn't even require an HDMI. If you were to have a USB port, a USB 3, I think, is recommended, and you can just plug your Quest in there with a link, and it essentially acts as your normal PC VR headset. Just it has a slightly lower refresh rate than most of the normal PC VR headsets.
Yeah, I'm on the Oculus Quest, the original Quest. It's the same for the Quest 2, but I use the Quest because of the portability of the Quest headset. I think is my favorite aspect of it. But that's exactly what I'm doing. Well, I used to do. The Type-C connector on the side can be plugged into a laptop, and so you don't need the display port or anything on that. Or alternatively, using SideQuest, you can add a plugin that allows for wireless, untethered Steam VR play. So that's an option as well. So, cool. Ooh. Yeah, fancy. Great. Well, honestly, I think we've talked the heck out of VRChat.
Also, Art disappeared. You want to come back in, Art? I think you disconnected for a bit, and you.
I had to switch to desktop.
back
All
in.
my stuff died, so I'll just stand behind you creepily.
He's just standing there, menacingly.
I mean, Spain's just dead.
Yeah, our director is dead behind the camera. But cool. I'm gonna wrap it up there. I don't know what we're at for time, but thanks everyone for joining us and listen to us talk about VRChat. Enjoy the rest of the convention.
Yeah.
Have fun, y'all.
Bye-bye.
See ya.
Yay.
Cut. Printed. Rat party. Where's the drinks?